Before the goddess of justice, you are worthy.
We're 3 weeks into the Legacy of Phrecia event, and the Behemoth, as expected, is one of the least played ascendancies across the standard 4 league types. It's a bit more popular in both Ruthless Hardcore Trade and Ruthless Hardcore Solo Self-Found versions of the event, notably due to reservation skills being a lot more difficult to obtain, and therefore having a class that disables spell usage is significantly less punishing, at least before you're able to fully gear up. So if you're out of the loop, the Behemoth is one of the new ascendancies introduced in the Phrecia event, and it's a Marauder ascendancy. The thing that makes this ascendancy special, or perhaps not so special, is the fact that it has a mandatory node right at the beginning which disables spell skill usage, effectively forcing any Behemoth build into only using attacks and war cries. Now, this video isn't going to be attempting to sell you on the Behemoth or trying to claim that this ascendancy is somehow better than it seems. After all, the disabling of spells really is as bad as it looks. Almost every ability in the game that you'd expect to be something other than a spell is in fact a spell. Banners, Blood Rage, Berserk, Stances, Aspect skills, even Ambush is a spell. However, with that said, the Behemoth does have something on the ascendancy which opens it up to some very interesting options defensively, and that's what this video is all about. It all begins with Incorruptible, one of the ascendancy notables on the Behemoth. Now, to get to this node, you need to spend 6 of your 8 ascendancy points, which is quite the investment. But this one-line notable is a lot more powerful than it may seem. Armour applies to chaos damage taken from hits. In PoE1, when Armour is applied to elemental damage or chaos damage, it is calculated post-resistance mitigation, and since Armour is naturally more effective at mitigating smaller hits, the chaos resistance in this case will massively lower any incoming chaos hit damage before it is then mitigated further by your armour. When this type of mechanic is taken to the extreme, it is able to effectively mitigate a hit by up to 99%. To do that, you would need 90% chaos resistance and enough armour to provide 90% damage reduction, lowering the damage by 90% from resistances and then by 90% again from armour. However, chaos damage isn't the most common damage type in the game. Actually, it's the least common. So to make this modifier more useful, you need to use the Divine Flesh Timeless Keystone, which comes from a Glorious Vanity Timeless Jewel when it's in the name of Zabaqua. Divine Flesh will make 50% of all of the elemental damage you take be taken as chaos damage instead, whilst also providing a handy 5% to maximum chaos resistance. With this combination, you'll now have a way to heavily mitigate half of the incoming elemental hit damage that you take, because that damage will be taken as chaos instead, which is mitigated first by your chaos resistance and then by your armour. This combo already exists in the game because of the Fourth Vow, a unique body armour featuring the modifier from the Behemoth's Incorruptible notable. This is a great body armour, and in combination with Divine Flesh, it's able to provide an extremely strong defensive setup. However, using the Fourth Vow prevents you from using some other really powerful combinations with Divine Flesh. And at the same time, since it's a body armour, you also can't make use of the newer base types that have much higher defense-based stats, such as the Conquest Lamellar or Royal Plate, which can also have other important stats such as PDR and Eldritch Implicits. But the Behemoth is able to gain the most important modifier on the Fourth Vow without actually using this body armour, and that opens up some very interesting options defensively. The first is Incandescent Heart, which makes you take 25% of incoming elemental hit damage as chaos damage instead. This means that combined with Divine Flesh, you'll be taking 75% of all of the incoming fire, cold and lightning hit damage as chaos damage instead, which is first mitigated by your chaos resistance and then by your armour. One of the strongest aspects of damage taken as is the fact that damage type properties such as type specific penetration are lost. So for that 75% of the damage that's being taken as chaos, it won't be affected by elemental penetration, for example the Shaper's Ball ability, which has a huge amount of cold penetration. And because you're taking such a huge percentage of the damage as chaos, you can completely forego any kind of maximum elemental resistance scaling, and instead focus on scaling your maximum chaos resistance. For example, using a shield with a maximum chaos resistance suffix, or by making use of one or more Born of Chaos cluster dual notables. This combo is absurdly strong defensively. Even without much armor scaling, it's really powerful. Now, this is possibly the strongest option in regards to mitigating elemental hits, but it leaves you a bit vulnerable to physical damage unless you're really able to pump your armor total up. But another option you have instead of Incandescent Heart is the Doppelganger Guise, which can provide up to 40% less physical and chaos damage taken. Notably, you won't be able to use the Insane Toggle skill as it's a spell, but just wearing this body armor without using the skill, you're considered to be sane, so you benefit from the less damage taken and the regen modifiers all of the time. Now, the crazy combination here is that along with Divine Flesh, half of all of the elemental damage that you take is taken as chaos damage, and that also includes damage over time. For example, Ignites or the Shaper's Beam, which is first mitigated by chaos resistance and then lessened by Doppelganger's modifier. So the Doppelganger's Guise combined with Divine Flesh provides something that the Incandescent Heart didn't, which is defense against all damage over time no matter which type of damage it deals. And that's really good. Damage over time is no joke in PoE1, it's very dangerous. Additionally though, one of the weakest parts of the Doppelganger's Guise and Divine Flesh combo in the core game was always that in terms of raw hit mitigation, it pales in comparison to the Fourth Vow unless a hit is exceptionally large. For the Doppelganger's Guise, a hit is always mitigated by resistance and then by the less damage taken modifier, so the amount of mitigation is consistent no matter how much damage the hit deals. But for the Fourth Vow, small and medium-sized hits are mitigated considerably more due to armor's calculation post-resistance. And yet, the Behemoth can have the best of both worlds. The damage over time mitigation provided by Doppelganger's Guise and Divine Flesh, and the ridiculous hit-based mitigation of both the armor and the less damage taken modifiers combined. On top of that, you're able to very quickly recover any lost life due to the regeneration modifier. This body armor on the Behemoth with the Incorruptible notable is going to be hard to beat. However, one more option that needs to be mentioned is of course a well-crafted body armor, because whilst you'll be able to get a huge amount more base defense on a crafted body armor, you can also get some important modifiers to shore up the weak points, for example additional physical damage reduction, which can roll up to 8%. There's also the Eldritch implicit for physical hit damage taken as chaos damage, which is going to be extremely effective here. And alternatively, you could even look at a Hunter influenced body armor, which can roll a prefix up to 15% physical hit damage taken as chaos. And this modifier also goes up to 18% and provides 1% maximum chaos resistance when it's elevated. Now, there's a lot more that you can look into with these kind of setups. For example, there's the Flawed Refuge and the Font of Thunder, two unique shields which are quite interesting in combination with the Doppelganger's Guise. But for that, I can recommend looking at my older videos on these topics, which I'll link in the description below. I just wanted to cover the interesting defensive options of this Ascendancy, because whilst the Behemoth overall is a bit of a meme with spells being disabled, it can do some stuff that you normally can't do in the base game, which is interesting enough in my opinion to make it worth playing a character in this event. That is if you're like me and you enjoy building tanky. That's it for this one guys, thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.